Hello, everybody. I'm here with Surfer Joe Lorenzo from Surfy Industries and Surfer Joe, the band. Today, we're going to talk about Surfy Industries. How are you, Lorenzo?
Hey everybody, how are you doing? Good, very good, very good.
So, a man like you who is constantly playing and touring and involved with multiple businesses, how do you find time for Surfy Industries?
Well, surfing industry started as an easy project, but lately has become a main occupation, or almost a main occupation. Of my first job remains to be the musicians. I'm always around the world, but yes, surfing is a project that has been going very well, and it's been a good investment. So a good idea and a good project. Thanks, Bjorn, who created the kit initially, and but he's doing very well. So I find the time somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's I'm surprised at how many bands use it. There's like tons of
Yeah.
bands in the USA that use it and rave about it. How did you and Bjorn first meet and get the idea to make this a company?
All right, Bjorn started creating the kit quite a few years ago, let's say 10 years ago. And the idea, as Ted and Bjorn said already, obviously, was to recreate in solid state the sound of the 6G15, or as most people know it, the Fender Reverb Tank, which is a big part of surf music, indeed. And I'm one of those people who says that surf music is not made by the reverb or the amps or the guitar per se. Surf music is in the spirit. But it's important anyway to say that the reverb tank has become a fundamental part of this genre, of this music. So Bjorn started creating this kit, replicating the sound of the 6G15. He did a very good job. A lot of people started buying this do-it-yourself kit, which could be connected to an external reverb pan, an Acoutronics reverb pan, exactly like the one that Fender is using. And things were going pretty simple for him until at the Surfer Joe Summer Festival 2016, I decided to have a chat with Bjorn, and I proposed him to incorporate in a company, in a business, to actually become a proper company. So we gave him the name of Surfing Industries. We designed the logo for it. Bjorn was enthusiastic about the project and the idea of selling not only kits, but also and especially finished products. And this is how we started. So we said in the beginning, going back to your first original point of how I find the time to do that. We both said from day one, even before starting, you know that if this thing is going well, it's becoming a full-time occupation because you know how music instruments are. And it can be that a lot of people want this. And if so, we're going to enter a business that none of us know exactly, which is the manufacturing of musical instruments. But we both took it as a sort of a challenge because we thought it was a very exciting thing to do. Bjorn, as his experience as a technical engineer and was working as an IT guy. I've also been working as an IT guy for many years. So we come from a sort of a more technical engineering, point of view on things. And yes, I said it was very enthusiastic about my idea. And so we formed the company late 2016, starting up effectively in business in the beginning of 2017. The first product that we launched actually was the tremolo, because when Bjorn came in 2016, he brought a few prototypes of what has become the Surfitran, that reported the logo of Surfer Joe because it was done with for an occasion of the festival, and that has become our first product, followed of course by the Surfy Bear Classic, which I tested personally because it happened that right before going for sale with the Surfy Bear Classic, I had my first tour in Japan. And I went to Japan. I brought that unit in Japan. I still have the prototype of the Surfy Bear Classic. Everybody saw that thing and said, "What the hell is that?" Because I was not carrying a digital pedal or a Fender. I was using a Fender tank. So I said, "What the hell is that?" And I had the chance to test the product, and I broke it. I damaged it. So I found out where the weaknesses of the construction of what we did. We fixed that when we came back, and we launched the first edition of the Surfy Bear Classic, which went very well. And from there on, all the products that we now have in stock and in production. So this is how it started.
Well, one of the things that interests me about what you said is something that Ted and I didn't speak with Ted and Bjorn about, is how do you find a manufacturer that's going to make these pedals for you, the housing?
Well, we've been through different processes. In the first process, when we started, actually, we did manufacture most of the stuff ourselves directly. Bjorn was directly involved in the manufacturing. He did develop some tools that allow to cut easier and quicker the wood to make the chassis of the Classic, because I remind you that the Surfy Bear Classic is full wood covered with Tolex, like the proper amplifiers. We had the PCB board made locally and in Sweden, because the company was incorporated in Sweden. But then shortly after, we noticed that the request was very high and we couldn't continue making them on our own. And also the cost was very high, because unfortunately, wherever you look in Europe and the US, it's very complicated to manufacture large quantity of electronics. So we had to start looking to China for some things. But still, as we're doing today, we pre-select some key components like the JFETs, which replace the tubes in the Surfy Bear units. Bjorn selected manually. And we make sure that the process of the assembling of the electronic board, of the PCB board, as they're called, is done correctly. We have a great partner in China that makes the PCB boards. But I'm proud to say that anything else is made in Europe. So starting from the construction of the chassis, we started with the pedals, obviously, like everybody, using something that was already made. But when we arrived to make the first edition of the Surfy Bear Metal, we didn't want to use something already made, and we couldn't, because it was a big metal box. So from that product on, we started manufacturing our own enclosure. Right now, we manufacture all the enclosures that we do. So all the enclosures are made, if you want to know exactly, they're made in Lithuania. So in European Union. So they are produced there. The metal is made there, is bent there. The chassis are made there. They're powder painted and printed there. All the components come from different parts, of course, depending on the components. Some connectors come from USA, like for the Surfy Bear Classic, we still use Switchcraft components, so they come from USA. Some other come from Europe, from Nutric, some other from China. And then we use parts that come from either Europe or USA, so the screws and everything. So everything else, except for the PCB board, the electronics, is probably made in Europe, assembled in Europe. We cannot change right now from moving out of China for the PCB boards, because the costs are very high, but also the level of production, the quantities. No companies in Europe can or in the US can handle the amount of production that we have right now. So we found a good balance, and it's working pretty well. So this is how the products are born.
Yeah, yeah. So let me try to phrase this the correct way. You're centralized in Europe, but you also have distributors in North America, Japan, and Australia. Would you like to talk about those?
Absolutely. Yeah, our company started in Sweden and has been, the headquarters have been Swedish, Surf Industries AB, until last December 2022. Then since already 3 or 4 years, can't remember exactly, we have the logistic company in Italy, that is handling the logistics, the shipping, the main distributor. And from there, we started with Ted, Surf Industries USA, of which Ted is the CEO, and is a company that is only dealing for the distribution in USA, Canada, and Mexico of Surf Industries. So Surf Industries USA. Now, in the late December, we did shut down the Swedish company because none of the parts were continue being assembled in Sweden. So right now, Surf Industries is fully an Italian company. In Japan and Australia, we have partners. We have not exclusive. Sorry, we have distributors there. In Australia, we are supported by a company that is called Jesus 4, and they work pretty well. They're distributing many brands, including Surf Industries, and they're doing a very good job. While in Japan, we work with Miyagi Music, which is also an important distributor. I think among the first 3 or 4 distributors of Japan. They also distribute a lot of brands. And also with them, we've been doing an amazing job in the past 2.5 years. So this is our structure. All the shipments that are not based in USA, Australia, and Japan start from Europe, start from Italy. So we distribute directly, and we still sell directly from our web store, as you know, surfindustries.com. Although we have a hell lot of dealers everywhere. So Australia and Japan have their own dealers in these countries. Australia also deals exclusively New Zealand, while in the US and Europe, we have a lot of dealers that sell our products in their stores, but we still sell directly from our store, surfindustries.com.
So in order to get that sound from the Reverb Tank, I'm guessing you had to find a solution when they discontinued it. So was that what you're thinking?
Well, when we started the Reverb Tank, I can't remember if it was already discontinued or not. The problem that we saw was that there was a cost issue, because we all love the Reverb unit. I have a few, and we always say that the Reverb unit is the example. The Fender Reverb unit is our example. So if you have to choose between a Fender Reverb unit and a Surfy Bear, I will always tell you honestly to get a Fender Reverb unit, because that is the true thing. And the sound of the tubes cannot be replicated fully, all right? Still, there is a problem, that is how portable this unit is, how fragile can be, which for many people has been a fragile thing. But I have to say pretty honestly that I never broke a Reverb unit, a Fender unit. So I never found them so fragile, to be honest, but definitely is something big to carry around. And if you have a vintage one, in many cases, people want to be very careful about the stuff that you bring around, because it's very valuable. And obviously, you're scared if someone steals it from you. It's not my case, because I'm one of the few musicians who always carry around the Showman and the old tanks, and go around with 10,000 euros of equipment. Probably I'm stupid. I should have to know. A lot of people take their Showmans and amplifier and keep them in the living room. They spend $5,000 to buy an amplifier and keep it in the living room. Yeah. When Leo Fender built that stuff to be brought on stage and be played loud. So if it's not your intention to get an expensive Showman and play it on stage, you better don't buy it. Leave it to me, I'll buy it and I'll play it on stage. Anyway, going back to the point, we found that the tank, even the reissues, were very expensive. And unfortunately, we cannot blame Fender or any other manufacturer for that, because manufacturing stuff these days is very expensive. The parts are very expensive. Every single thing is expensive. And there are legal things that have to be considered. Authorization, they're dealing, not us, but they're dealing with high voltage equipment. So there's a lot of that has changed in the 60s, and the cost to manufacture things is very expensive. So we said we need to do something that gets extremely close to that sound. It's basically the same, except for the fact that it's solid state and use JFET transistors. But we need to make it cheaper, because if the price of the unit, like the most expensive unit we have, the top of the line, which is still the classic, would be as expensive as the Fender unit, then I would suggest people to buy the Fender unit, because it wouldn't make sense anymore. What we have to do have to be something that is more portable, reliable, but still an analog thing that works exactly the same. This is why we still use the Acoutronics tanks that Fender has been using. Actually, as you know, we have developed together with Acoutronics a special tank that works even better than the one that they have in stock. But we get back to the same thing, mainly because we think that as much as every manufacturer have tried to build digital reverb tanks, reverb units, digital reverbs, trying to emulate the sound of the 6G15 Fender and the Springs, they went close to that, but never managed to replicate the sound. Because if you have a spring reverb, you need real springs. Because the real springs have something that the digital don't have. And most people don't like to talk about that. They have imperfection. The reverb tank is imperfect. If you're looking for something that is perfect when you're looking at a spring reverb, then buy digital. Don't buy actual spring reverb, because springs are imperfect. You have a signal that is going through springs that are not correctly made. They're imperfect themselves. They have different gauges. They have different metals. You go through materials, and that sound is not perfect. But that is the magic of a spring reverb. And this is why you cannot really replicate the whole thing in a digital way. But obviously that you have issues with the reliability of the springs. You cannot shake it too much. You have to pay attention in the transportation. But we're talking about a problem that is cheaper when you're using a Surfy Bear than using a Fender unit. Let's say that you have to be less worried carrying around a Surfy Bear than a Fender unit. So looking at all these problems, and from a utilization point of view, because me, Ted, Bjorn, we're all musicians. We say we have to test this thing well on our own. So all the project, all the instruments that we make start from an idea based on our own experience. So what we want to do based on what we want when we go around and play the music. I want this, I want that. It has to be reliable this way. I have to shake it, I have to throw it in the car, I have to take the space. So we put together all these ideas and we develop the products that we have. So this is the concept, basically.
Awesome. Well, I want to say to our viewers, Lorenzo's surfingindustries.com is the link in the description. You can find all sorts of their pedals for purchase there. United States, Mexico, Canada, Europe, Japan, Australia. Check the link in the description. Also, for Pyrac merch, the link's right under there, and tons of surf music resources. Lorenzo, I really appreciate your time. I know it's prime work time where you are right now. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Ryan, for the job you're doing. And thank you very much for giving space to Surf Industries into your program. We're very happy. So a couple of things that I would like to add, because some people ask and I would like to clarify.
Sure.
When you order from us, remember that if you buy in the US, the products ship from within the US. This is something that sometimes is not clear, so I take the chance of your video to clarify that. And also, when you go on the website, in the store section, you will be able to select your region. So if you're in Europe and the US, and it's clearly written that we ship from there. So you can buy with confidence and nothing much. Just follow us. We're gonna participate to NAM in Anaheim, California, now in the middle of April. So come to see us there at NAM if you're in there, if you're planning to come to the event, especially because we have a couple new products coming out,
yeah, I heard.
which we cannot say anything about those, but you're gonna like them. So you will hear from us very soon.
And you're at NAM every year, right?
Well, we had the chance to do it only twice since our existence because we participated in 2020, then the COVID did hit.
Yeah.
So we went back last year, 2022. It was in June. Now we're gonna do this year. Then moved it to April. But the intention in 2024 is to go back to have NAM in January, like it has always been. But yes, no. Now that we are there, we are planning on continue doing it because it's a very important event, and NAM has become very important, especially for the small manufacturer like us, because the big fish is in the market. The big brands that deal with the guitars like Fender, Gibson, or many of these. Realistically, probably they don't have many new products to show. Everybody knows what they have. But small manufacturers like us, the pedal builders, effects, and drums, and all these things, we actually have news every year, new products. And NAM is a splendid showcase for that. So it's a good occasion to bring to life and introduce new stuff.
Awesome. I want to remind everybody to go check out Lorenzo's Facebook page in April, because when he's at NAM, he's posting the goings on at NAM and lots of new stuff all year round. And I was very happy to talk to you today. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ryan. See you soon.